Hi everyone, and welcome back to this series of videos looking at price elasticity of demand. Now, in the previous video, what we did, we went through the basics of the theory. So we were looking at what it is, how we measure it, how we calculate it, what the values from the formula would mean, and what the different possible outcomes are. We drew these diagrams as well. And then you thought about these questions here. Right, now in this video, what we're going to be doing is to be looking through some numerical examples together. This will hopefully help you understand these different possible outcomes from the price elasticity demand formula in a bit more detail. Right, now the first example I've called PED example 1. Now hopefully when you look at that demand curve there, you can notice that the gradient is very steep. And this would show a price inelastic demand curve. When you look at it, the change in price exceeds the change in demand. That would make it a price inelastic demand curve. Right, now in this scenario then, the original price was £2. When the price was £2, this product was being demanded 87 times. So at £2, demand was 87. When we increase the price to £2.40, demand falls to 83. Right, what we can now use is the formula to work out price elasticity of demand. So hopefully you remember the formula is percent change in demand divided by the percentage change in price. I've then given you all of the workings to work out the price elasticity of demand. Now I'll talk you through the numbers for this one then. To work out a percentage change, you need to do new value divided by original value, divide by the original value, multiplied by 100. So look, we've got then for the percentage change in demand. The new demand as price increases to £2.40 is 83. The original demand was 87, so we do 83 take away 87. We then divide by the original demand, which was 87, and multiply by 100. This will give us a change in demand of minus 4.6%. The change in price, if we put the numbers into the formula, will give us a 20% increase in price. So what we know then is that when this business raises price by 20%, demand will fall by 4.6%. Now, straight away, we should be realizing this is a very price inelastic relationship. The percent change in price, that 20%, exceeds the change in demand of 4.6%. If we put this into the formula to work out PED, so minus 4.6% divided by 20, we get a score of minus 0.23. Now, what we know is that any score between 0 and minus 1 from the formula is price inelastic in demand. So the demand for this product clearly is price inelastic. Right, now you've got here now scenario 2, so example 2. Hopefully what you can see on this one is that the demand curve now is a lot flatter. It's a lot more horizontal. You can also now hopefully see that when we increase price this time, demand will change more significantly than in the previous example. So what we've got now is a business that this time is lowering their price. They've lowered the price from £1.97 down to £1.79. Now, as we do that, the demand increases from 91 to 145. So this drop in price has led to a significant change in demand. So we're going to have an elastic relationship this time. What we can do, we can test it. Now, to work out the change in demand, again, I've got to use that formula. New divided by original, divided by the original, times 100. So what we know is the new demand is 145. The original demand was 91. If I plug their numbers into the formula, demand has increased by 59.3%. And that is following the change in price of minus 9.1%. So look at that then. What we know is the price falls by 9.1%. This leads to demand increasing by 59.3%. So the change in demand exceeds the change in price. We've now got an elastic relationship between the two. Demand is now responsive to that change in price. Now, if we put those numbers into the PED formula, 59.3% divided by minus 9.1%, we get a score of minus 6.5. Anything between -1 and minus infinity would show price elastic. Right, another scenario. So look at scenario 3 that we've got now. Right, now in scenario 3, again, you can hopefully see that we've got a very, very elastic demand curve. What we've done now, we've increased the price from £2.16 to £2.21. Demand falls from 100 down to 1 when we increase the price by that small amount of money. Now, if I put the numbers into the formula this time, look what we get. Demand falls by 99% following a 2.3% increase in price. If I put these numbers into the formula, I get a score of minus 43.04. So demand is now very, very price elastic. Right. To end this video, you've got here the different things which will make demand either inelastic or elastic in demand. Now remember, a price inelastic demand would be where demand is unresponsive to a change in price. So the change in price would exceed the change in demand. And you've got here 4 really, really important ideas to be thinking about. The first one is a lack of substitutes. So what this could mean then is if there's a certain product that you want to buy, if they were to increase price, if there were no rival products to buy, then you might still be forced to buy this particular product. So a good example I've put down here is a bottle of water in a theme park. So last summer, for example, when I was in the Magic Kingdom in Florida with my family, it's 120 degrees of heat, really, really hot. You want a bottle of water. Well, you can only buy the water from Disney. So because of that, they used to rip people off by charging, I think it was $6 for a bottle of water. Well, the logic would be if they charged $8, we would have probably bought more or less the same quantity of water. There was no rival products to go and buy. You were forced to pay the high prices due to a lack of substitute products. Now, the next one is necessities. So a good example could be gas or electricity in your home. If gas or electricity prices increase, your demand for them will not change that significantly. The reason why you need them, if it's cold outside, you've got to have the heating on. If it's dark outside, you put your lights on. So your demand would not significantly change for those things due to an increase in prices. You might find demand falls a slight amount, so you might start to use your energy a little bit more efficiently if price levels increase, but you will still more or less demand the same quantity of it. The next one, small proportion of your income. Now, if something costs 10p, it's a very small amount of what people earn. If the price was to double to 20p, it's still a very, very small proportion of your income. And that would probably mean that you will still demand more or less the same quantity of that particular product. The example I've put down here is chewing gum. If chewing gum doubled in price from 50p to £1, then you might buy a little bit less of it, but it will not be a significant drop in demand. Because at £1, it's still a very tiny proportion of what you earn. The last one I've put down is short term. So the idea being the short term, people might not be able to adjust to changes in price. So a good example could be if I turned up at the train station tomorrow having to go somewhere for work and prices have grown by 30%. In that short amount of time that I've got to get to work or to get where I want to be, I've got no choice but to pay that price. So it wouldn't really affect my demand for that product. Another example could be petrol in my car. If petrol prices were to grow, it will take me time to adapt and change my behaviours to move away from my car and petrol. So I would still demand this product. So when you think about products that are price inelastic in demand, we should be thinking about essentials. So things that you have to have for survival. If they become more expensive, you're still going to buy them. If there are a lack of substitutes, then again, you're still going to buy them if price levels increase, if you need them products in particular. If they're a small proportion of your income, you'll still buy them. And finally, in the short term, if you haven't got time to sort of change your behavior, again, you will still buy them. I was thinking another really good example of something which is price inelastic in demand would be petrol on a motorway. So if I'm on a motorway and I've got very little petrol in the car, you pull over at a motorway service station. Well, when you pull over that motorway service station, that petrol's a necessity. If you don't put the petrol in, you're going to run out. You're going to be stuck on the motorway. But also, you've only got one person selling you that petrol. It's only one petrol station at that service station. You've got no choice but to pay their higher prices. So due to a lack of substitutes and it being a necessity, you've got no choice but to pay those higher prices for these particular products. Now, a price elastic demand, remember, price elastic demand is where demand is responsive to a change in price. So the change in demand would exceed the change in price. So good examples of things, reasons for this could be lots of substitutes available. So if there are lots of alternatives available, if one business were to raise their price, you would shift your demand to rival products instead. Okay, so if you're in a market where there's lots of competition, lots of firms providing things, if one raises price, you go somewhere else. So for me, I'm very elastic when it comes to supermarkets. If Asda raise their prices, I'll go to Aldi. If Aldi put up their prices, I might go to Sainsbury's, etc. People will switch between rival brands. The next one will be luxuries. So these are non-essentials. You don't have to have them. So this could be things such as, a new TV. You don't need it. So if it becomes more expensive, that could significantly lower your demand for that product. We might put holidays in this category as well. If they become more expensive, you don't have to have them. Your demand might fall quite significantly for these products. The next one, large proportion of your income. Okay, now imagine a family holiday that costs, look at the example there, was to increase in price from £3,400 to £3,800. Well, that's only an 11.8% increase in price, but that could lead to a very big drop in demand because that's 400 quid. That's a big proportion of people's incomes. So if you compare that to price inelastic demand, if chewing gum was to double in price from 50p to £1, it might not affect your demand very much. It's a 50p increase in price. But if a £3,400 holiday doubled in price, that's an extra £3,400 on the price. That's going to have a huge impact on your demand. Now, the other one will be long term. In the longer term, people have got more time to adapt and change to higher prices. So in the short term, I might be price inelastic for petrol for my car. But in the long term, if prices keep growing, then I've got time to change my behaviours, buy an electric car, get fitter and do more cycling, those types of things. Okay, so in the longer term, people can respond more to prices than they can in the short run. I always think a really good example to remember here on is smoking tobacco. People that smoke are often addicted. So to them, it's a necessity. There's a lack of substitutes. They've got to smoke. They need it. Also, in the short term, they're addicted. So if price of tobacco was to increase in the short run for these products, demand among smokers would be very, very price inelastic. Their demand would not respond significantly to that change in price. Whereas in the long run, hopefully those people can kick the habit, give up smoking, become less addicted, and become more responsive to a change in price. So you've got there, everyone, factors that influence price elasticity of demand. Right, now just to wrap up this video, you've got some review questions I want you to think about here. So again, please hit pause, write down these questions, put down your answers, and when you're comfortable, please end the video. Thank you very much.